Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 56 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are coming to you once again from the international headquarters of GSM Services as we look forward to continuing to have great discussions in the coming weeks and months. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another great organization this week as we highlight the Hope United Survivor Network. We have Andrea Wyant and Mollie Weakland with us today. Andrea is the Assistant Director of Hope United, and Mollie is the Special Events and Marketing Coordinator. Andrea and Mollie, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Very good. So we're going to get right to it as usual, and maybe start with you, Andrea. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and anything you'd like to share.
Okay. So I'm a wife and a mom and very passionate advocate for trauma survivors. And so I started my career with social services type work and then transitioned over to working with survivors. And I've really, really enjoyed it. Been doing that since 2019. Okay.
Very good. And we just to throw something else in there that you mentioned before the podcast, and you are a fan of?
Oh, NC State all the way.
We could just stop the podcast right there.
I mean, I think that's enough said.
Yes, it is. Mollie, what about you?
No pressure. So my name is Mollie Weakland, and I have worked for Gaston County at both the shelter and Hope United since, forever, for probably about 5 years.
Okay.
And didn't know I had a passion for this work until I got into it, and I'm really glad I did. So, and work with some pretty fantastic people.
Well, that's often my experience. That's often the way it happens. You know, you don't know until you get started with something. So maybe, Andrea, come back to you. Some of our listeners may have heard of the Hope United Survivor Network, but just kind of give us a quick rundown, the history of it maybe, what it is here locally, and then that can just help, our listeners kind of understand what we're going to be talking about.
So in about 2018, a committee was formed to kind of look at how we handled trauma survivors in Gaston County. We had an intern at the time working through the domestic violence shelter, and we gave her some bus tickets and a fictitious backstory and said, we want you to go to all the stops a survivor might have to go to if they needed assistance in Gaston County. And that was about the extent of the direction that she received. So not where anything was. She's not from here. Just go figure it out. And she was able to...
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mine's inside out.
So we gotta stop. We just had this discussion before we started that occasionally, Andrea is now the second person that put the headphones on improperly.
It's fine. I think it flipped in process, but whatever. Anyway, so we didn't give her a lot of history. We just said, be on your way. And at some point she hit, I think, 21 stops.
Oh, wow.
It
19 hours.
19 hours of work. And she said if I had had 2 live children with me instead of the 2 fictitious ones, I would have given up. I would have never made it through all the stops. And at one point she waited for the bus for quite some time to go to something that she could have walked to, but she just didn't know. She didn't know the setup. And a lot of our survivors don't, and they're in actual trauma at the time. And so what we said was we can do better. So we contracted to have someone come in and kind of work with our community and figure out what our needs were. And from that, the Family Justice Center concept was sort of adopted as this is something we need here. We think there's a great use for it, and we worked to bring it. And so grant was awarded at the end of 2019, and in April of 2020, we were able to open our doors right after the pandemic started. So this wonderful model of community partners all being together in one facility and a survivor comes there and receives every service they need had to pivot to something that we could do remotely because we weren't allowed to be in person during that time. So we found that over time, I believe we reached a lot more people than we would have if we had only sat in our office and unlocked our doors and said, come in. We reached tons of people by phone. We connected to them where they were. We linked them to their community partners. So they still had just one organization that they had to reach out to be linked to every service. And now, if you fast forward to where we are now, we're kind of a blend of the two. So we're still not going to say you have to come to our office to get help. We can help you over the phone. but we would love to see you. So you're welcome to come in and be here as well. We're in a temporary space, construction delays and everything else with the pandemic. We hope to be in our final space later this fall. And at that point, we will have people around the table and everyone there, hopefully, to serve survivors.
Can I assume you're talking about the building on South New Hope Road? Or is that just CAC?
That's just the CAC. So
okay.
they got that fancy new building.
Gotcha.
And then the FJC and Hope United will be moving in to a space that's located off of Franklin Boulevard. So it's a little bit more central for a lot of like court and DSS and things like that are all walkable from our permanent space. Okay.
So I'm pretty ignorant of this myself, even though I tell our listeners if you want to learn a little bit about the Lighthouse Children's Advocacy Center. Is that correct? I said that right, Dana. You
Yes.
go back to episode number 45 and hear a little bit about that. But kind of, can you just explain, this is a question for either one of you, kind of explain the connection, the shelter, CAC, just haven't all that connected and work together, and for maybe someone who haven't heard the other episode.
So when we originally created the FJC, it was a program. And eventually what we quickly learned was that we had other survivor services programs in Gaston County that were operating under other departments. And it just made sense to put everyone together under one umbrella. So Hope United Survivor Network, the department, was born.
Okay.
So we are a department of survivor services. We like to say we serve from birth to death because we will assist in child abuse, domestic violence, human trafficking, sex assault, and elder abuse. So we kind of serve the gamut of survivors. And our programs then under that department are the Domestic Violence Shelter, the Cathy Mabry Cloninger Center, the Lighthouse, the Children's Advocacy Center, and then the Family Justice Center, which is also titled Hope United Survivor Network.
Okay. So that's a lot. How would you describe, the mission? I mean, you kind of touched on it, but what is it that you're trying to accomplish on, a day-to-day basis, just with the network?
We really hope that a survivor has one department or one program to connect to that then links them to everything else that they need. So if you want to get some mental health counseling, if you need a place to live that is safe, if you're in a safe place but you need the locks changed, or you need security system, or you want to help getting a 50B and non-contact order, any service that you need, you can call Hope United or drop by our facility, and we will link you to every other service you need. So we want to take the burden of safety off the survivor, and we'll take that burden on, and we'll help make sure that you get the safety that you need.
So with that said, how would you describe some of the specific initiatives, or maybe more detail on the programs? I'm not sure I'm using the right wording. Kind of how can you describe that maybe for our listeners? Is that a fair question? Or
yeah, so each of our different programs serve different populations of people and certainly have their own initiatives. So the main goal of the shelter is obviously to get men, women, and children who are fleeing domestic violence a safe place to stay. Now, there are wraparound services certainly within the shelter. And then with the Lighthouse, their main objective or main goal is to provide that interview in a child-friendly, safe environment with a non-offending parent and all of that kind of stuff from episode 45.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
And then if you look at the FJC and Hope United as a department, the initiatives really reflect what Andrea was saying about taking the burden of safety off of the survivors. So across all of the programs in the entire department, we don't want a survivor to have something happen and tell that story 19 times in 20 different offices and all of that. So our main goal is, to take that burden of safety off of them by creating initiatives such as we have a space in 2C, which is like our court initiative it's relatively new to Gaston County, but there is a space now in the courthouse where survivors can go before and after court to get a cup of coffee, to have their children be watched by an advocate, to get a protective order with the sheriff's office. I don't know, a lot of people, unless you've needed the service, you weren't familiar that if you went to court then you had and got a protective order, then you would have to walk across the parking lot. Well, where's your abuser? Probably looking for you in the parking lot of the courthouse. So now that's all in one location in 2C, and it's just a safe place for everybody to go, mom, dad, kids, and receive mental health counseling and support services and everything in one location. So that's the theme here, one location.
Sure.
But some of the other initiatives that we have that we're trying to work on, one of the things is strangulation. So having a countywide response to strangulation, which sounds incredibly specific after all of the gamut of things that we've talked about. But what we know about strangulation is that survivors, and it is 99% of the time a woman and a male perpetrator, they're 750 times more likely to die at the hands of that abuser by a gunshot. So that's how narrowed down that data is. They're also far more likely to use lethal force against law enforcement. So, or a social worker showing up, just indiscriminately fire a gun at people who are kind of against that power and control dynamic. So, we want better, safer outcomes for survivors in Gaston County, and we believe it. A large part of that is this work around strangulation and making sure that we hold offenders accountable when we can, when we know better, we do better, that kind of thing.
So can I assume from that, I'm assuming you're working closely with the court, law enforcement. Is it the sheriff's office, county, city,
all of the above?
All of the above.
And we
emergency management services as well.
Right.
Yeah. So talk about initiatives. One of the other ones that we have worked on in conjunction with the strangulation is that now every ambulance in Gaston County is equipped with what we call a survivor kit. So if they respond and they think that strangulation may have occurred, or just that DV is present in the home or in the relationship, they have a resource bag that they can leave on scene that talks about all of the different resources that are available to that client, has a personalized safety plan that they can go over. It also has a lot of that information about strangulation. So we could go on and on and on, obviously, about strangulation. But all of that information is there for the survivor, along with the numbers that they call should they choose to reach out.
So, gosh, that's a pretty heavy topic. How often, sorry, I'm getting off the list of questions here. How many, I remember the CAC discussion, and I was just stunned at the number of children. Mm-hmm. So the initiatives, the programs that are dealing with, once you're past the children issues into adults, how many people are you guys dealing with a month, a year, or is that?
It really varies, and I will tell you it's on an upward. We're just steady on the up.
Have you seen it increase during the last 2.5 years?
And one of the components of Hope United is we get a police referral every single morning. So law enforcement will we get a list of police referrals. So every time law enforcement responds to a domestic violence incident in Gaston County, we get the report the next morning. So we know that law enforcement is responding to a lot more of these. People were stuck at home. The resources have changed. The landscape of Gaston County has changed, certainly from where we're sitting from 2019 to where we are now.
Right.
So, the upswing is we're seeing a lot more clients, which we're hoping is because we're doing our job and we're getting the word out there, and not necessarily that it's occurring more, but it probably is. I'll say last month for the Family Justice Center, we did 80 intakes. So, but the shelter house, I believe, their numbers vary too because of COVID. We've had to it looks very different, but around 350 people in the last year at the shelter. So that's men, women, and children.
So shelter for the year is almost 1 a day, and then last month it was 2.5 a day average, including weekend days. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems like a lot. I don't have my sheltered life. I don't have a concept really, of that, but that seems like a lot to deal with. So with all the work you guys do you have, are there any impact stories you can tell, positive outcomes, that you've anecdotal stories that you can share? I mean, obviously without getting specific with individuals, but just let's turn this on some positive notes maybe.
One of the things I think is the most positive about Hope United being here, because the shelter's operated for a really long time,
right?
Is that the shelter's mission is to shelter in the moment, but not the follow-up and the wraparound services necessarily after they exit shelter. We want them to be safe. We don't know if it's safe to contact them. We don't know where they're going. It was kind of, we sheltered you and then you spread your wings and you flew. With Hope United, we're able to link anyone that's sheltered to Hope United for follow-up and wraparound services. And Hope United is not time limited. If they want us for 5 years or 10 years or forever, that's fine. If they want us for 2 days, that's fine. So we have such a bigger capacity for that. And we have seen some people, because of the connection under the department of having both, come successfully out of the shelter into independence through work between our two programs. And it's really fantastic when you see what you can do. We always say we wish we had more time with someone to get them in that place, and we hope that eventually we'll be able to do that. But very impressive. We've relocated a lot of survivors, so sometimes it is they came here with an abuser, they don't have anyone here, things go wrong in the relationship, and they have family somewhere else. That's something that we'll help them with. If they need a plane ticket or a bus ticket back to their family, back to safety, we've certainly done that many times. We are able to help with transitional housing. So if you need a safe place to go, we can help you try to do that as much as you can in a community where housing is scarce.
Sure.
But we have seen a lot of success stories, for sure.
I have a story, and this just came to mind, and we actually prepped for this. So this is scary. But we had a client, Andrea and I both came from the shelter. So this is department-wide, but specifically the shelter. And there had been a long history of domestic violence in this family. Mom, 3 boys. The little boy, the first morning that he woke up at the shelter, he was like, oh my God, nobody is screaming. I smell coffee. Like, this is great. Mm-hmm. And his mom told him that because of, the situation that they were in, he couldn't say where he was, right? So he didn't know what to call us, so he called it his village, and so we became the village people, I guess. But
that's pretty good.
But we would, at the shelter, we used to do stuff like have birthday parties, and so he had a birthday at the shelter while he was living there, and he walks in, gets off the school bus at the shelter, comes in, and he's like, oh my God, the whole village is here for my birthday. And it's like those kinds of things when you can like plant the seed with kids and just wrap your arms figuratively and literally, around the families that we're serving. That's something we don't talk about a lot, but it really is. But probably he was very vocal about how much he loved the village. But I mean, I would like to think everybody enjoys their stay at the village. That they feel that love and care that we try to,
Well, I'm sure a child would experiencing something for the first time. They don't know the difference of what they've been experiencing up to that point. I would imagine that that would be quite. Would be quite a traumatic change from trauma. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So again, I appreciate that, because I think we like to hear that some of these situations turn out positive, right? I'm sure they all do. I'm sure they all probably don't, but I also would believe, again, my ignorant mind would think that the trauma that when they're trying to deal with the situation, having one place to go, that seems like that would be a big deal.
It is, and we know it takes a survivor an average of 7 times to effectively leave and stay gone from their situation. So the other great thing about our programming is you can come back. If you're ready to go right now and you think you have a plan and your plan falls apart, you can come back to us for more help, be that through Hope United or through the shelter, and we'll be there for you. What
do you, looking ahead, what do you think the organization is going to look like 5 to 10 years from now? I know that's a long time. Maybe it'd be nice if we didn't have to have it, right?
It would be fantastic. We need to be employed somewhere, but yeah. We can come and apply with you, but
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we have a backup plan.
Yes.
I mean, we would love to not need to be here, but the reality is
Sure.
there's always going to be a need. And the other thing I don't think I mentioned about Hope United, the shelter's an acute situation. So you're in crisis in the moment, you're not safe, and you need a safe place to go. The great thing about Hope United is that we can serve you if you have a history of elder abuse, human trafficking, sex assault, and domestic violence. So while you may not currently still be in that situation, the trauma you experience is still having an impact on your life, right? And you can come to us and we can still help you. So we've kind of expanded our services. I will say Hope United started with 4 employees. 3 employees and
a director.
And a director. So 4 total employees.
Okay.
And what are we up to now? You just did an org chart.
Over 35, I think.
Department-wide.
Full and part-time.
So we've already tremendously expanded.
That's both great and depressing.
And then we did a vision.
You know what I mean?
Right,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Part of that's, bringing in other programs, but
Absolutely.
still we've grown
Yeah.
tremendously. And then we were looking at where do we want to be, and I think we doubled again based on what we think our needs are. So we are growing. What we don't want to have is a gap in service in Gaston County. If there is one and it's identified and it's something that is in our wheelhouse to try to take on, we will do that. And we are about 10 days away, 20 days away from working on that with another for another program that couldn't provide a service anymore, so we're having to pick it up. So not ready to announce that yet, but it's coming, and it's coming under us because we are not going to let it not happen.
And so, never mind. Go ahead. I had a thought and it went away. Oh, about the future. Sorry, I came and then it went. So our director's name is Tara Joyner, and if you've ever met Tara Joyner, she is like a do more kind of person. So when we look ahead to 5 to 10 years, not only is it exhausting, but it's exciting. If she identifies a need, she's gonna do all the rest of the steps. And so I anticipate that we'll be very busy over the next 5 to 10 years, but I really think that all of the barriers to service that anybody in Gaston County may face, getting, whatever that resource may be, that in 5 to 10 years, I think Tara, Andrea, and I, and the rest of the staff at Hope United will probably have those barriers identified and hopefully removed. And that's the overall goal is people will say, well, I can't, do this because I don't have a car. Tara's like, let's find you a car. Yeah. Or, I can't come to shelter because I don't have a phone. She's like, who's got a phone? That's very much the mentality of Hope United is
solve problems.
Yes, solve problems. And if this is what you want, is to be out of this relationship, then give me the list of all the things you need, and I'll find somebody to get those for you. So that's where I see us in 5 to 10 years is exhausted and hopefully helping a lot of people. But
so you've hit on so many things. So something that just came to mind, it seems my experience, especially the last, how long have we been doing this? 15 or 16 months, is I've had the fortune to meet so many people that are so passionate, about what they're doing. And frankly, that's how things get done. That's how our community is better. That's how so many organizations like yours is just doing such great work. But it also comes with getting attached to the people you're serving. I mean, I would imagine, so you said the average is it takes 7 times for someone to leave. How is that hard to watch and hard to see occur? Do you see people 7 times yourselves, or more? If it's the average is 7, obviously there's some that are less and there's some that are more.
We do see people over and over again. There's some names that we know very well.
Yeah.
We are always there to welcome them and there to serve them. We don't want to turn anyone away, and that might have been the time that it stuck.
Oh, sure.
And if there's judgment in the return, then they're not going to come back to you when they need you again. Right. So there absolutely can't be that. You can't judge them for their decision that they make in that moment. I haven't walked in their shoes, so I don't know what that feels like to them. But we do see people over and over again, and it is hard. I mean, there are some stories that I could tell you right now that have stuck with me from the first few weeks I was working in the shelter, and I won't ever forget them. I have a note that I have kept that someone wrote me after their stay that I will always have with me, because I think when you know the why that you do the work you do, it keeps you from burning out. It keeps you from
Sure.
from letting the frustration get to you when things don't go the way you want them to. Because, we have an ideal way. We would love for it to go for them.
Sure.
One of the things about Hope United is it's very survivor driven. So if they come to us, we might offer 10 services. But if they come to us and they only want one of them, that's fine. We're not going to force the other 9 on them. This is their journey. And all we're here to do is make their journey a little smoother and a little easier and definitely safer. So we are absolutely not about what we want. It's about what they want.
And piggybacking off of that, the shelter is officially 40 years old this year. And so one of the things that we know about domestic violence is one of the biggest indicators of whether or not you will be a victim of domestic violence or a perpetrator of domestic violence is whether you grew up in it. And so we are now at the point where children who lived at the shelter 20 years ago are coming through as clients. And so our prevention work, as far as initiatives go, like we know we have a lot to do with prevention work and getting the work out there, or getting the word out there, and all of that. So that's definitely lit a fire under us that like we can do better, So, and we will.
Am I right? At one time, the shelter was an independent organization. Am I correct? Has it always been associated with the Hope United Survivor Network? Okay.
Oh, it was always under Gaston County.
Gaston County, right.
Hope United kind of was born in 2020. So.
Right, that's right. Okay. So maybe I'll ask you this question first, Mollie. I mean, you've already shared enough, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. This is a podcast about why Gaston County is a great place. So why would you say Gaston County is better because the Hope United Survivor Network is here?
Oh, man.
And you can't get out of the question.
Okay, so we're in this. I have firsthand witnessed families that I really think are better off because they came through our doors, whether it's the doors of the CAC, the doors of the FJC, or the shelter. I think that when we see kids come back through the shelter as adults, having experienced intimate partner violence, I think for every one of those, there are probably 10 families that we have affected that have been safer, been more stable, all of those types of things. I think that the people that work for Hope United are the most passionate people that you will meet. I mean, I think so. And they're really like the same mentality that Tara has about, don't tell me why not, just figure it out. That trickles down to staff, and they really are a group of people that will go above and beyond for families that are in need in our community. And I don't think that every community has that. I could be wrong, but I think that Gaston County is better because of the people and the programming at Hope United.
And I would add to that we have had tremendous support from the manager's office, from the commissioners, from everyone to bring the FJC concept here, to support the FJC concept, and to bring this department to fruition. So I'm not sure every county gives quite that support.
Right.
And I think we did receive a grant. We did receive some funding, and we've done a whole lot with what we received, I think.
We have charts that show that.
Yes.
That reflect the work that we do.
So am I correct, too, by looking a little bit of research I've done on the website? I mean, this is this Hope United Survivor Network is a bigger organization than just Gaston County. Am I correct, or am I off there? It's based somewhere, or am I did I just open a can of worms I shouldn't have?
So we are a Gaston County government entity. So
right.
We fall under that umbrella. We serve survivors. You don't have to be from Gaston County to receive our service. So sometimes we are touching someone in a different county, and providing assistance. We can certainly do more when it's in Gaston County because court and jurisdiction and all that comes into some of the work that we do. But we don't specifically only serve Gaston County, but the mass volume is Gaston County residents.
Okay, so I was wrong when I just I was going down the road where so there's no other Hope United Survivor Networks like in other areas of the country or the state. Okay.
The Family Justice Center concept is in other areas.
Okay.
It started in San Diego, California, and it has spread across the country. So there are other family justice centers, but our entity that we're talking about today is a Gaston County entity.
Okay.
Born and raised, Gaston County.
So what have I not asked? What questions have I not asked? What would you like to share before we shift gears just briefly?
Oh, we have an event coming up
Okay.
That thanks to you guys and some other sponsors in Gaston County, it's called Threads of Hope. We haven't done it since 2019. Whoa. 2019. This year we are hosting the event at Veronay Winery in Kings Mountain. It is a Gaston County through and through event. I mean, from the food to the event space to raffle items, everything is from Gaston County and through the support of people that live in Gaston County. So, do you want to do your drum roll noise? And I'll. Okay, yeah. So we're excited to announce our speaker this year is Stephanie Land, who is the author of Made, which last October came out on Netflix. The book was created into a Netflix series with Andie MacDowell and her daughter, and it is it's a true story about Stephanie's journey from living with an abusive man to what her life looks like now, and all of the barriers that we're talking about removing and that she faced. So one of the classic scenes from the series is she goes to social services to get resources, daycare vouchers, and she left in the middle of the night kind of thing, didn't go inventory her paperwork before she left, and the social worker is like, well, I need the child's birth certificate, and she's like, you really think I just stole this baby to come ask you for money so I can go and work a job that, it doesn't even make any sense? And so, like, make it make sense. And that is the gist of Threads of Hope. So that's coming up in November 3rd.
And if you haven't watched the series
3rd,
on Netflix, check it out. Because it's a very realistic look at what survivors go through. As someone who's worked in the field now for quite some time, there were light bulb moments for me when I watched it.
All right, so last question before we kind of shift gears to the really important question. So do y'all need volunteers, or what advice would you give someone wanting to get involved with an organization like Hope United? Or, and again, we'll come back and make sure we finish up with where can people go to find information and maybe help or donate Threads of Hope or whatever. We'll make sure we cover all that before we finish.
The shelter is very fortunate in that they have a long history of having a huge following and donors and people who are very passionate about that work. And we just want to see that continue throughout the whole department. We do have a website. And if you go there, there's a Get Hope tab for people who are looking for help. And there's a Give Hope tab for those who are looking to get involved.
Understood.
We hope to have a fundraising specific Threads of Hope page up soon where they can learn more about our event. If you want to sponsor that event, you could still get in touch with Mollie to do that. And if you have raffle items or things like that you'd like to donate so that, their additional funds can be raised, we are currently accepting those as well. That would be fantastic.
All right.
And I will say, as far as volunteers go, if there are ways to volunteer that are small through this, through any of our programs, and then there will be times where volunteers are like, I wish you would get a hobby, Mollie, and stop calling me because I have a life. So it can be small and it can be large, but we are always in need of community support.
Understood.
Always. We can't do what we do without it.
Okay. Well, like I said, we'll make sure we finish up with the website and any information and repeat when Threads of Hope is and how maybe other companies can get involved. We, as Mollie said, we are I think we're a sponsor for that event.
Mm-hmm.
So
thank you.
That's again something good for the community and looking forward to it. But we're going to shift gears to the questions that your coworkers, your family. This is really what people want to know about you.
Okay.
Because this is about Gaston County, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Andrea, we'll start with you. What is your favorite thing to do, activity to do here in Gaston County? Besides Save the World.
That too. I have an entire pack of dogs. So it's Crowder's Mountain or Goat Island Park or somewhere like that where I can take them with us because then I feel guilty if they're at home for too long.
So what does it define a pack?
I have 4.
Okay.
3 was apparently not enough, and so I got a puppy about 6 months ago, and I'm still questioning my sanity, but everything's fine. Everything's fine. He's a good dog. Or will be someday, several years from now.
I'm sure there's no chaos at all.
No, none. My child went to college, and so we just kept adding dogs, I guess.
Mollie, what about you?
Okay, so if I'm being completely honest, my favorite thing to do in Gaston County is eat. the restaurants.
That's an acceptable answer.
I do. And then if it was not eating, it would be like a Honey Hunters game. Things like I'm really excited about them being here and
It's a great
and all that it has brought.
We're really involved with those guys as well. It's been a great addition. I mean, it's odd, frankly, to being a lifelong resident. It's odd just to see that stadium where
So
it is.
nice.
I mean, it is. So speaking of, Mollie, I'll stay with you. Speaking of eating, favorite dessert shop, bakery, restaurant in Gaston County.
Don't steal mine, Mollie.
Oh God. Do you think that's someone?
You're first, so you say it's all you.
My favorite restaurant in Gaston County. Oh my God. Webb, probably. Custom Kitchen. Our office is right behind there, so we smell the zucchini fries every single day. And I would be lying if that's probably where I eat the most.
No, I agree. It's really good. Did she steal your answer?
No, because I heard you say dessert, and I was
did,
completely zeroed in on Cake Me Away, which
Okay,
is used to be in Gaston, is now in Dallas, and we love that.
Very good. So what is the last place you ate, and what did you order?
We had a lunch meeting today, so it's going to be the same place. Go ahead.
Hickory Tavern, and I had the Cobb salad. The waitress recommended their vinaigrette, and it was really, really good. That's what I ate.
Good.
And I had a side salad and Brussels sprouts.
Side salad and Brussels sprouts.
It's fantastic.
I'm sure it was, but that is not a Stephen lunch order. But, so are you, Andrea, stick with you. Are you a North Carolina mountains or North Carolina beach person?
Oh, mountains all the way.
Mountains, okay.
Beach. 100%. Yeah.
So it's like.
I'm redheaded. We don't like hot weather.
All right, this is the question, but I'm going to save Andrea for second on this one. Mollie.
This is so unfair.
UNC, Duke, or NC State?
Your job is
I
fair.
know.
And fair has nothing to do with it.
My boss is literally sitting right here, so I have to say NC State. My sister went to NC State. My brother-in-law went to NC State.
So that is the correct answer, by the way. So
That's why I
won. Okay.
So
NC
this
State.
might, episode number 56, this might be the first episode where all of our guests said NC State. So this is the first and best episode now, obviously. Andrea, what is something very few people know about you?
I never learned to ride a bike.
Where did you grow up, if you don't mind me asking?
Mount Holly.
A Mount Holly person that never learned how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
That is...
It's odd.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mollie?
Now I'm too old. My bones would break. So
Can you top that?
I went to space camp and fully believed I was going to be an astronaut. So not a lot of people know that about me, that I had that.
Space camp.
That I had that in me. Yeah, my dream was to into outer space. And
now you're in the conference room at GSM doing the podcast.
Yeah, which feels a little like outer space, honestly.
Yeah, we feel that way every day, don't we? So, Mollie, book you would recommend to our listeners, or blog, or something that you follow that?
I have to say, Made. The book.
Okay.
The book that the fundraiser that this author will be speaking about, but it really is really, really good.
Okay. Yeah, my wife and I are Netflix fans, so Netflix fans. Say that fast 5 times, Amy. All right. So, Andrea, what about you?
I had Made written down as well. We're on a tangent here.
Yeah, we are laser focused on November 3rd, if you can tell.
So, again, just kind of sticking with the Gaston County theme, of course. Mollie, besides Hope United, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
I am not from Gaston County. I don't I came to work here, and that was my first kind of forte into Gaston County. And I have to say, it's the people that I have met here. They're different than anywhere else I've lived, but they're incredibly kind, incredibly giving. They have, something unique to offer. I think that Gaston County is special, I think. So.
Thank you. Andrea?
I think it's the sense of community. I think that we have that small town feel where you'll help your neighbor and you'll do what needs to get done. But then there's still plenty to do. So it's not, there's something for everybody all the time.
I agree. So, yeah, it's two very good answers. So, Andrea, stick with you. This is my favorite question. I think I say that every episode. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Wow. Relax. It all works out.
Yeah. The things that seem a big deal when you're 20 just weren't.
Those missed turns actually end up right where you're supposed to be. So
I have a feeling that this question is a little longer ago for myself and Andrea than you, Mollie. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self? And was that just a couple of years ago? Or
that was only 5. No, just kidding. It'd probably be to take care of myself, wash my face, go to bed, do less of the things that 20-year-olds do. That would be my advice to myself is That's
funny because that's a first. I don't think we've heard that one.
I was doing too much at 20.
That's interesting.
I was doing too much. Yeah.
Okay. I think we always have another first. Did you go to East Gaston High School?
I did.
So this is another first. We have 2 East Gaston people in the room. Amy has not participated with sound effects or anything on today's episode, but now that I just assumed it's just
many, many decades apart. We both went to East Gaston. Oh, see, maybe they should have a class there. We should call the principal.
I don't even know what to say. That I don't know that I've ever been around 2 people at the same time out of 4 that don't know how to ride a bike. Mollie, can you ride a bike?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. I feel better about
there was judgment in your tone.
I feel better about the world now that at least we know 50% of people. So, so obviously, the main point of us talking today is to bring awareness to the organization. Listen, maybe there's somebody that you could help that might hear this. So where can they go? How do they contact the organization? Website. The website's really good. I've been on the website myself. So just share anything and everything that you can. So
www.hopeunitedgaston.com is our website. There are landing pages there for the Family Justice Center program, Hope United, for the Cathy Mabry Cloninger Center, and for the Lighthouse. So depending on your interest, you can find something. And then, as I mentioned, there's a Get Hope. So if you have someone who's looking for resources or needs services, versus Give Hope if you just want to get involved. There's a contact us form on those pages that sends an email directly to us, so you can reach us that way. You can follow us on Facebook. We really appreciate that.
Okay.
And a lot of our updates, especially as we move towards November 3rd, will be posted on Facebook. So it's a great way to follow us and get more information.
Is there information they can find about the Threads of Hope event on the website, or is there a separate place to go to find out about that? Or
so the best place is probably Facebook to get real-time updates about Threads of Hope and ticket sales and things like that. We are hoping that by the end of August we will have a permanent space for Threads of Hope on our website.
Okay.
But all the information should be in both locations eventually.
Okay. Very good. So, any last words or anything you want to share before we wrap this episode up?
One quick thing. We do have a live person answering our crisis line 24/7.
Okay.
So when it's not being answered at the FJC, it's answered at the shelter. So you can get hope 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even on holidays. And that number is 704-852-6000.
Okay. Very good. Mollie, anything to add before we wrap this up?
No. I would like to challenge both of you to a bicycle race, though.
We'll just give you the trophy.
Could that be part of the Threads of Hope event?
I think so.
I have a dress picked out in heels. No.
There could be fundraising betting or something on the winner.
Yeah, no. I mean, he is our sponsor, Andrea, so we need to probably,
You heard it here first. There's going to be a race between Amy and Andrea at the racetrack down in South Gastonia on bikes. No?
I don't see that happening.
Okay. Well,
Amy's shaking her head no, so I'm going with a solid no.
Guys, again, this has really been good. I appreciate the work that you're doing. And we're going to finish up here with my own book recommendation that I typically do, and maybe a quote or thought for the week. My book recommendation is one. It's been actually a couple of years since I read this. It's from Doris Kearns Goodwin, who wrote a book titled "Leadership in Turbulent Times." So maybe not that we are in turbulent times, but sometimes feels like we are. But it's a good read if you want to get a take on that. She's actually got more than one good book and take on leadership. And my quote and thought for the week comes from a book I think I recommended. Gosh, I should have looked up which episode, but there's a classic book called by Stephen Covey called the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and one of his tenets is seek first to understand, then to be understood. We mentioned a little bit earlier. You heard our guest talk about empathy, and it's really hard to put ourselves in the shoes of the individuals that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But you really have to have empathy, I think, to be successful, especially in the work that these guys are doing. So think about that as you go into your week. And we heard 2 good books here today that you might want to check out. So as usual, we sure appreciate you taking the time to listen to today's episode. And please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast. And please don't hesitate to contact us here at our email address is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And please follow us on all our social media platforms and continue to give us a good rating to help us get noticed. I think 5 stars at the top, but this one's probably going to get a 6 or 7. And thanks again to Andrea and Mollie for being our guests today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amy Anderson from GSM Services and edited here locally by the Sumner Group. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.